U.S. manufacturing turned down in October for the 8th straight months, and an ominous sign for the direction of the economy. Household debt hits a record in September, and another deep blue state legalizes physician-assisted suicide by sneaking it into an unrelated bill. U.S. manufacturing turned down in October on the PMI index, dropping from 49.1 in September to 48.7 in October, marking the 8th consecutive month of contraction. And that's not a good sign, of course, for the economy going forward. Price pressure may have eased up some, but production, inventory, and deliveries all declined. Employment in the manufacturing sector, that continued to decline, and 67% of panelists that were surveyed noted that companies are working on managing their current workforce rather than hiring new people. As such, lower rates are unlikely to address this structural problem or even encourage companies to expand during a contracting business environment. Economist Martin Armstrong noted, quote, 8 consecutive months of decline should be a warning, as manufacturing declines often precede recessions, or in this case, ongoing stagflation, end quote. Armstrong reports that tariffs may be harming new orders and exports, but U.S. manufacturing has been on the downswing for longer than April 2025. That's when the tariffs started being implemented. He writes, quote, there are deeper structural forces at play, from regulatory burdens to high corporate taxes and supply chain stress. But most notably, other countries are not interested in buying. Everyone is grappling with their own debt burdens, and the global economy, not merely the U.S., has been contracting overall, end quote. Manufacturing is not driving the U.S. economy, so noted Armstrong, when he added, quote, the current administration has been keen on expanding the sector, but orders are down, and this has proven to be more than a temporary drop. Capital is fleeing to non-traditional assets as confidence in the established economic framework continues to decline, end quote. The New York Fed published its quarterly report this week on household debt, and the news is not good. The report showed that total household debt increased by $197 billion, or 1%, in the third quarter of 2025. That's now reaching a new record high of $18.59 trillion. It was split between $13.5 trillion in housing debt and $5.1 trillion in non-housing debt. Here are the gory details. Mortgage balances, they grew by $137 billion in the third quarter and totaled $13 trillion at the end of September 2025. Mortgage delinquency rates, they rose to 0.83% from 0.82% the prior quarter. Credit card balances, they rose by $24 billion from the previous quarter and stood at $1.23 trillion. The delinquency rate is at 12.41%. That's the highest since 2011. Auto loan balances, they held steady at $1.66 trillion. Home equity line of credit balances, they rose by $11 billion to $422 billion. And student loan balances rose by $15 billion and stood at $1.65 trillion. We'll be right back after this short break. Do you appreciate all the free programming we produce here at Worldview Tube? Well, if you do, we need your partnership now. If you're already supporting us, thank you. If you're not, would you please consider doing so? We have to have a big November and December end of the year giving. Please go here right now to this website, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You can give through credit card. You can give through PayPal. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number. Simply use that phone number by leaving a voicemail for Melissa or texting her, and my wife will get back with you and help you make your contribution over the phone. We send out tax receipts with our EIN number, well, the first week of February of each year. We, again, have to have a very big November and December as we get ready for pushing out more Christian Worldview programming for 2026. So thank you for going now to worldviewfoundation.com. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Zero Hedge reports that the United States has put forth a draft resolution within the UN Security Council. It's meant to end sanctions on Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa. He's the leader of the Islamic militant and political group HTS. The proposal comes ahead of al-Sharaa's anticipated meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House. That's set for this coming Monday. The Security Council has regularly approved travel exemptions for him, including this year, meaning that the White House meeting does not hinge on the outcome of the U.S. proposal. The draft resolution, which has been seen by Reuters, also advocates for the repeal of sanctions against Syria's interior minister. The UN sanctions include a travel ban, asset freeze, and arms embargo. It is unclear when a vote on the draft could be held. At least 9 of the 15 council constituents need to vote in favor of the proposal for it to be enacted. Yet Russia, China, and the United States, along with France and the UK, they each hold a vote. Washington has for many months urged the Security Council to seize the sanctions on the regime there in Syria. President Bashar al-Assad was deposed in December of 2024 after HTS-led Islamic militants effectively won a 13-year civil war in the country. The country has remained since May of 2014 on the UN Security Council's sanctions list aimed at al-Qaeda and ISIS affiliates. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced al-Sharaa's visit to the White House at a press briefing on Tuesday. In July this year, Trump rescinded unilateral U.S. sanctions on Syria via executive order, saying it was, quote, a chance at greatness, end quote, for the Syrian people. But President Trump kept sanctions on Assad and other leaders. The Trump administration also revoked the foreign terrorist organization designation for HTS. President Trump met with al-Sharaa in mid-May in Saudi Arabia, where the U.S. president urged the Syrian leader to join the Abraham Accords. The Illinois Senate ended October by quietly giving final legislative approval to a measure that would legalize physician-assisted suicide by sneaking its language into an unrelated bill. Live Action reported that standalone legalization legislation failed to make it through either Democrat-controlled chamber of the state legislature earlier in the year. But activists had greater success smuggling it into an unrelated bill on food sanitary preparation rules. The amendment to the bill, passed previously in the state House and now the Senate as well, states that, quote, medical aid in dying is part of general medical care and complements other end-of-life options, such as comfort care, pain control, palliative care, and hospice care, end quote. It now goes to the desk of the governor, the Democrat, J.B. Pritzker, for final signature. Quote, this proposal would legalize the abandonment of the desperate, dressing suicide as dignity, while the state and convening doctors washes their hands of the duty to protect life. My heart breaks for every soul in such pain that death seems the only door, end quote. So warned Calvin Lindstrom, pastor of Church of Christian Liberty in Arlington Heights. Quote, may God's people bring a witness of true hope in the face of death, end quote. Despite Pritzker's extreme pro-abortion bias, the fact that even Democrat-controlled chambers did not support the original upfront version of legalization, well, it provides hope that the governor will find the move politically untenable if enough public attention is marshaled. The Illinois Family Institute is urging residents to email the governor to urge him to veto the bill. 10 U.S. states plus the District of Columbia currently allow assisted suicide. If this bill is signed, Illinois will become the 11th state to allow for doctor-assisted suicide. Active euthanasia and legislation bills, well, they're also currently being considered in Montana and New York.